Now, in this video, I want to talk about structuring direct suggestions. In a previous video, I actually gave you some examples, and I told you about the worksheet, which you can download here on this page. I have this worksheet here in front of me. And of course, the first thing on here is our indirect suggestion. And then I have 3 suggestions, each with an auditory, a visual, and a kinesthetic way of delivering that suggestion listed on this worksheet. Now, for learning purposes, I really want you to come up with 3 suggestions, and I want you to create an auditory and a visual and a kinesthetic as a way of really practicing as you're beginning to write hypnosis scripts and work with clients. Now, when I'm really working with a client, I might do 3 suggestions, but I might only do an auditory and a visual, or I might only do a kinesthetic and a visual, or I might mix it up a little bit. But for learning purposes, and right now, 9 suggestions, which are 3 suggestions, 3 different ways, really is probably the best way to sort of structure the learning process. Now, I'm joined by Sheila again.
Hello.
So thank you very much for joining me again.
Thank you.
And last time we talked a little bit about anxiety just as an issue to select as we went through the conceptualization of what a session looks like. Today we're going to actually focus on something kind of real, and that is your goal for the year. Tell us, what's your goal for the year? What would you like, if everything works out correctly, for the end of the year to look like for you?
I would love to open up a restaurant.
Okay. Now, that opportunity probably came about in part because of one door closing?
Yes, of course.
Sure. And I mentioned earlier that Sheila had worked with me in a restaurant bar that we owned, and because it closed, it probably gave you some opportunity, huh?
It did.
So what I'm going to be doing here is pre-talk. This is back before the induction again. I'm interviewing someone, and I have this piece of paper in front of me, and I'm going to be writing some notes. Now, clients never ask me, what are you writing? But if they do, I would simply say to them, well, I'm writing down some things as you're speaking that are going to be helpful to me as we go through our session later on. Okay? I'm not keeping any secrets here, and clients are accustomed to a professional usually writing some notes, whether that's an attorney or an accountant or a mental health professional or a hypnotist or really anybody, even a waitress writes down what she's hearing the customer say. So I'm usually taking some notes, and I'm doing some interview, and as I do the interview, I'm beginning to write some notes for myself so that when I step out of the room and get her a receipt and she's filling out those papers, I'll really be able to sort of fill in the blanks and come back and structure some suggestions. So imagine now that we're back at the pre-talk. It's before I've even asked for the payment and before I've given the paperwork. We're just talking about what it is that brought her to the office. Now, most people who are entrepreneurs don't usually come in to my office. You've heard that hypnosis can be helpful, though, in goal achievement and success.
Yes.
Okay, great. And what are some things that you'd really like to accomplish this year? I mean, obviously, opening up your own place is the primary goal, but what are sort of the tasks along the way? What are some things that you need to really focus on harnessing your energy that you think would be beneficial in our hypnosis session?
Team building, confidence, and motivation.
Okay. And so she's given me really 3 broad categories. Now, clients usually aren't this specific, but in this case, this is really a great example here. Team building is important in accomplishing your goal. From what perspective? How is developing that going to be important to you?
Developing it, feel like you're crossing the finish line, feel like your customers and your employees can both, work together great.
Sure.
Smiling faces.
Sure. It's almost as if you can hear them talking to each other and sharing in success. Mm-hmm. All right, great. Now, have you ever been a part of a restaurant where the staff didn't really function as a team?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so being able to focus on that now before you even open up, really something most entrepreneurs don't seem to do, and that's really great.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Now, as far as confidence goes, you strike me as one who has a tremendous amount of confidence. Mm-hmm. Did a great job when you worked with us. How is increasing your confidence going to be important to you in achieving your goal?
I think it makes things more successful, pulling up, seeing the restaurant, seeing the sign, going in, seeing the employees working well together. It's a feeling of accomplishment, which results in confidence.
Sure. Now, if you reach that apex of confidence and open that place up this year, what does that mental picture look like in your mind?
It's light, it's floaty, it's waking up in the morning smiling.
Okay. Yeah, and you have a great smile too. So that could be your logo. You could call it Smiles or something.
Smileys.
Right, exactly. Do you ever see like a mental image of that sign on opening day and what it would look like? That
Big, red, name of the company.
Sure. Now you said motivation was also important to you, along with confidence and really, hearing that inner voice giving you guidance. How's motivation important to you? What would you like to accomplish related to motivation?
Waking up in the morning and ready to go to work, ready to, achieve things.
Now, again, this is a short demonstration, but she's given me gold as far as creating suggestions. When it comes to kinesthetic, right here in the category of motivation, she talked about waking up in the morning. Well, waking up is a physical process that is in and of itself kinesthetic. When she talked about team building, she used a metaphor, and that metaphor was crossing the finish line, which, by the way, gives me a great idea for my repertoire of stories for when we get to the hypnosis session for actually an indirect suggestion. But I'm also going to be able to use that as part of my direct suggestion from an auditory perspective. I might come up with a suggestion along the lines of, hearing that starting gun go and the crowd cheering when you're finished. And so we can really work all of these into here. When she talked about confidence, she gave me some very visual things. She talked about the logo and, she used the color red, the red sign. And so that was very, very visual. So I've written some things down here. And again, later on in my pre-talk, I'm going to do what I did earlier. I'm going to say to her, now, every office has some paperwork. So let me have you fill out the paperwork. By the way, are you going to be using cash, check, or a credit card?
Cash.
Okay, and it was $55,000,
Yes.
right? Okay, remember the fee from earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's now gone up to $65,000. But if I can have that $65,000, I'll go get you a receipt.
Okay.
So she hands me $65,000 in cash, and then I step out. Remember, I have this piece of paper. I'm almost always just filling in these blanks here. So in our next video, it will be after the pre-talk is over, and I'm going to be delivering my suggestions so you can see where this short discussion has gone and how I'm going to deliver these suggestions during our hypnosis session in our next video.